Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Arundhati Ramanan and these are the top headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. 241 people confirmed dead and a lone passenger survives the Ahmedabad Air India crash, India's worst air tragedy in nearly 2 decades. Sources say one black box with flight data and cockpit voice recorder likely to have been recovered. Several people fear dead on the ground as the Air India plane crashes into a medical college hostel. Residential buildings nearby also suffer serious damage. Rescue and recovery operations are still underway. United States decides not to ground the Boeing 787 fleet for now, citing investigation is at a preliminary stage. This is the first fatal crash of the 787 since it was commissioned 14 years ago. Boeing shares remain under pressure for a second day. Israel attacks Iran's nuclear sites and military leadership in a major attack involving 200 fighter jets. Iran launches hundreds of drones towards Israel in retaliation. US says Israel acted unilaterally. India expresses deep concerns as tensions rise in the region. Soaring tensions in West Asia rattle the global market. Stocks decline across the globe. Crude oil prices surge as Israel's attack sparks supply fears. Sensex and Nifty decline, tracking weak global cues to lose 1% this week. Aviation stocks under pressure worldwide after the Air India crash and West Asia tensions lead to airspace closures. National Company Law Tribunal admits a plea to start insolvency proceedings against crisis-hit Gensol Engineering, orders the appointment of an interim resolution professional to take over the management. SEBI has already barred Gensol promoters for allegedly siphoning funds. Sona Comstar chairman Sanjay Kapoor passes away after suffering a heart attack in the UK. The 53-year-old was reportedly playing polo when the incident occurred. Kapoor had tweeted about the Air India plane crash hours before his death. Those were the headlines that we're tracking for you this evening, but our top story today, 241 people have been confirmed dead after an Air India Boeing flight crashed into a medical college shortly after takeoff from Ahmedabad International Airport. Only one person, identified as Vishwas Kumar Ramesh, survived the crash and is receiving treatment in the hospital. Grieving families await answers from authorities as investigators comb through the wreckage. Sources say one black box with flight data and cockpit voice recorder is likely to have been recovered. CCTV footage revealed that the flight crashed 59 seconds after taking off, with its landing gear still deployed. Home Minister Amit Shah said the aircraft was loaded with 1.25 lakh litres of fuel, and this, coupled with the heat, made it difficult to rescue anyone. The plane crashed into a medical college and residential buildings nearby also suffered serious damage. Several people are feared dead on the ground. This is India's worst air tragedy in nearly 2 decades. Rescue efforts are also continuing on ground, and officials are trying to ascertain the cause of the tragedy. The US and UK are sending a team of investigators to assist India in the probe. Prime Minister Narendra Modi inspected the crash site earlier this morning, after which he chaired a high-level review meeting. Air India CEO Campbell Wilson also visited the site and briefed the Prime Minister on the steps taken after the crash. PM Modi also met the lone survivor at the hospital. Speaking to Doordarshan, the survivor recounted his miraculous escape from the tragedy.
टेक ऑफ के बाद 1 मिनट के अंदर ही जब टेक ऑफ हुआ ना, तो सडनली 5-10 सेकंड कैसे लगा जैसे स्ट्रक हो गया वो। बाद में से मेरे को लगा कि कुछ हुआ। बाद में प्लेन में लाइट ऑन हो गई, ग्रीन और व्हाइट। बाद में वो पता नहीं, वो प्लेन टेक ऑफ ज्यादा करने के लिए वो रेस बोलते हैं क्या, रेस दिया होगा ऐसा कुछ, और सीधा स्पीड में ही घुस गया। जहाँ वो क्या था, वो
हॉस्टल था, एक हॉस्पिटल का।
हाँ, हॉस्टल में, और सब सामने सब हुआ।
ये जब फ्लाइट जब क्रैश हुई, उस समय हॉस्टल पे लैंड की थी, उसी समय आप बाहर निकले थे?
नहीं, क्योंकि आई थिंक मेरे को जब मैं जो साइड पे था ना, वो साइड हॉस्टल पे नहीं लैंड हुई थी। हॉस्टल के जो ग्राउंड फ्लोर है ना, जैसे नीचे, वहाँ लैंड हुई थी। तो मुझे दूसरे के बारे में मेरे को पता नहीं, लेकिन मैं जहाँ लैंड हुआ था ना, वो नीचे की साइड थी। तो जब वहाँ थोड़ा पेस भी था प्लेन के जब बाहर, तो जब जैसे मेरा डोर टूटा ना सब, तो मैंने देखा ना जब सामने कि थोड़ा इधर पेस है, तो मैं ट्राई कर सकता हूँ निकलने के लिए। तो मैंने ट्राई किया निकलने के लिए, तो फिर मैं निकल गया उधर, क्योंकि अपोजिट साइड पे था ना, वो बिल्डिंग का वो था ना दीवार, तो उधर से कोई शायद नहीं निकल सका होगा।
Madhya Mujawar joins us now from the crash site in Ahmedabad. Madhya, take us through the latest developments.
Well, this was an extremely devastating tragedy, extremely devastating tragedy. The Air India flight AI-171 crashing seconds after it took off from the Ahmedabad airport. The flight was headed to London. It was carrying 125,000 liters of fuel. And when it crashed, the 125,000 liters of fuel, ignited the blast and led to a massive explosion. What transpired in the cockpit is yet to be known because investigating teams are going through the black box, and sources have told us that the black box has been recovered. However, there is no official confirmation yet from the DGC or from any authorities whether the black box has been received. But sources have told us that black box has been received, and investigating teams have been going through the details of what the voice recorders, the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorders have recorded. But what we know so far is that the pilot, while after taking off, had done a mayday call. And even before the ATC could get back, the connection was lost. And the next what was seen was that the plane crashed onto one of the buildings that you see behind me. This is the hostel of the medical college. The plane crashed onto one of these buildings. The last building especially suffered a massive impact, led to the death of 241 people. There were 242 people on board, including 2 pilots and 10 cabin crew, of which 1 passenger miraculously survived. He's believed to have jumped from the emergency exit door, which was on the side of his seat. He's being treated at the hospital. The Prime Minister visited the site in the morning along with Aviation Minister Ram Mohan Naidu. The Prime Minister spoke in the hospital. He assessed the situation here on ground, spoke to the investigating teams, and later on he went to the hospital and spoke to the lone survivor. He also spoke to the families of the victims about the crash. He passed his condolences to the kins of the victims. Massive explosion and a major tragedy for India, and also globally. We haven't seen such a crash since 2023. 2023 had seen a Yeti Airlines crash. 2024 had seen 2 fatal crashes, which was the Azerbaijan Airlines crash and the Jeju Air crash. 2025, this is the major air tragedy, not just in India but also in the global level. Also, a first of its kind fatal tragedy for 787 Dreamliners. Boeing planes have been involved in accidents previously, 737 MAX, 777, 747, but 787 Dreamliner has never been involved in a fatal accident. So a big blow to the 787 plane as well.
Absolutely, Madhya. A tragic event there. But if you could talk to us about what's happened on the ground. You know, the plane crashed into a medical college, as you pointed out, and the residential buildings also suffered severe damage out there. So if you could tell us what you're hearing from, the people around you there.
So the buildings that you see behind me, these are 4 blocks. The first 3 blocks is where the students were residing, and the 4th, the last building, is where they were, which was called the canteen, where several students were having lunch when the aircraft crashed. So the official number that the college has given is 5 casualties, but many more casualties are feared. We are yet to know from authorities how many students have died. The official number, however, is 5. But that's not it. If you look at the impact, the trees are burned. There were vehicles parked below the building. Vehicles are burnt. Bikes. There were people standing below the building. We are told that there was a tea stall owner with her 2 kids. She also suffered and couldn't, survive the flames. There were other people standing below the building who died because of the impact of the fire. There were animals in the compound who also could not bear the flames. So many more casualties are feared, but the official number so far is only 5. But what we've been told by eyewitnesses is there were also cylinders that exploded inside because of the fire, and that could have led to higher casualties.
More than 100 doctors reached to the civil hospital campus to take care and to support the government, all the officials, authorities, in concern with all the CM sir, our Bhupendra Patel sir, health minister, health secretary, all the authorities of the BJ Medical College. And we are in hand to hand and with the shoulder to shoulder, all the movements with the government authorities to save the remaining, those patients who are coming from the hostels building. But unfortunately, we have lost our 4 medical students, 1 doctor's wife, and fortunately, we have saved more than 45 medical students in the hostel area.
Meanwhile, U.S. officials have said that there isn't enough data to suggest a need to ground Boeing 787 Dreamliner fleet. Acting Federal Aviation Administration head Chris Rockulu told the media that the FAA will not hesitate to implement any safety recommendations if any information arises during the investigation.
I take it that where we stand today, you haven't seen anything that would lead you to think the 787 fleet needs to be grounded or anything like that?
I'd start with it's so preliminary, and we've seen the video on the dramatic video of the tragic crash. We have assembled a team, an expert team, to work with the NTSB and with the Indian authorities to investigate that. My point earlier was, as we proceed down this road with the investigation itself, if there's any information that becomes available to us regarding any risk, we will mitigate those risks immediately.
The plane crash was terrible. I've already told them anything we can do. It's a big country, a strong country, and they'll handle it, I'm sure. But I let them know that anything we can do, we'll be over there immediately. But it was a horrific crash. It looks like most are gone. They actually maybe have a couple survivors, which is just heard. But that was a horrible crash. Nobody has any idea what it might be.
So what could have caused the crash? Here is aeronautical engineer Guy Grattan with his take on what could have transpired.
It's probably not lift the aircraft lost, but thrust. The evidence suggests that the engines were winding back and not providing the amount of thrust. That requires the pilot, while they try to resolve the thrust problem, to slow the aircraft down. And it does look like that was happening. But the videos we've got, they're inconclusive. I'm very reluctant to conclude that we know anything specifically about the flaps, but we do know that they did not raise the undercarriage when we'd have expected them to. We do know clearly that the aeroplane started to descend. And we do know that the pilot made a mayday call that indicated he believed to be losing thrust. So all of that, I think, is consistent with the engines failing to provide power in some way. What reason for that, we just don't know. This is very concerning for both Boeing and the engine manufacturer because something went wrong, and it's very important to them that whatever happened never happens again. So they need to look very hard into this. I suspect one of the first areas of great interest is going to be what they can get from the cockpit voice recorder, because by hearing what the captain and his first officer were saying to each other, they will get a very good idea of what in the cockpit was believed to be going wrong, and the descriptions as they went through it of what actions those two pilots took to try and resolve the situation. And I think that's probably one of the first things everybody is going to be interested in. Further from that, of course, the flight data recorder will have in the order of 1,000 parameters of information about how everything significant on the aeroplane was functioning. And they will start to be able to see from that what was the cause of the undercarriage not going up, what was the cause of the engines apparently losing power. And from this, they can start to piece together a picture of the events that led to this awful tragedy.
On that note, it is time for us to head into a short break. But coming up next, Israel attacks Iran's nuclear sites and military leadership in a major attack involving 200 fighter jets. More details when we return. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're still with us on Business 360. The other big story this evening, a major escalation in West Asia. The Israeli military has launched a wave of strikes against nuclear sites in Iran and also targeting Iran's military leadership. Israel struck the Natanz uranium enrichment plant and has killed 6 nuclear scientists. Iran's top military commanders have been killed, including General Hussein Salami, the head of the Revolutionary Guard. Israel deployed 200 fighter jets, striking more than 100 targets in Iran, including many in the capital, Tehran. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu justified the military operation and said it could continue as long as necessary. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has vowed to take action and threatened that Israel would face severe punishment. Iran has launched hundreds of drones at Israel, and the Israeli army says it is working to intercept them. Here's a report.
Israel said it launched airstrikes against Iran on Friday, hitting over 100 targets, including nuclear facilities and missile factories, and killing top military commanders in Iran. The operation sparked a fresh escalation in tensions between the nuclear-armed rivals, and also came ahead of Washington's nuclear talks with Iran scheduled for Sunday. State TV in Iran showed video of burning buildings in Tehran early Friday after the strikes were reported. As day broke, injured Iranians sat by the curbside, and firefighters tended to smoldering buildings. Israel will face severe punishment for the attack. That's according to a statement from Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei, read out over state TV. State media said the strikes hit the headquarters of Iran's elite Revolutionary Guard Corps and killed top commander Hossein Salami. And according to Iran, several nuclear scientists.
At present, the competent Iranian authorities have confirmed that the Natanz enrichment site has been impacted and that there are no elevated radiation levels.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the extensive strikes were needed to stop an existential threat to Israel's survival.
In recent years, Iran has produced enough highly enriched uranium for 9 atom bombs. 9. In recent months, Iran has taken steps that it has never taken before. Steps to weaponize this enriched uranium. This is a clear and present danger to Israel's very survival.
Israel declared a state of emergency Friday as authorities anticipate retaliatory attacks from Iran. People in Tel Aviv were seen stocking up on essentials, and Israel's air defense has been put on high alert for incoming missiles and drones. Tel Aviv's Ben Gurion airport has been closed until further notice. A flight tracking website showed airlines clearing out of the airspace over Israel, Iran, Iraq, and Jordan on Friday after Israel's airstrikes.
US President Donald Trump has warned Iran to make a deal, saying things can only get worse. This comes after US Secretary of State Marco Rubio said Israel acted unilaterally and that US was not involved in the attacks. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said, and I quote, "There has already been great death and destruction, but there is still time to make this slaughter, with the next already planned attacks being even more brutal, come to an end. Iran must make a deal before there is nothing left and save what was once known as the Iranian Empire." End of quote. On to all the market action of the day. Sensex and Nifty closed in the red on the back of geopolitical tensions. Nifty held on to key support levels and ended the session above the 24,700 mark. Financials underperformed, with HDFC Bank, Kotak Mahindra Bank and IndusInd Bank dragging the Nifty Bank lower. For this week, Sensex and Nifty declined 1% each. Broader markets underperformed, with the Nifty Bank and Mid-Cap Index falling over 2% each. Surbhi Upadhyay joins us now with the day's market action. Surbhi?
Well, it's not been the best of the weeks, not just for the market, but for our countrymen, for our country overall, given the devastating events that we had in the state of Gujarat. But talking about the market, what was a range-bound consolidation gave way to weakness by the time Friday approached. The week started with a bit of unwinding in the mid-cap arena, some correction coming through after what's been a tremendous rally throughout most of April and May. But then the correction spread to the large cap screen as well, because we had a new geopolitical event to deal with, and that is the Israeli strikes on Iran. So as crude flared up close to $75 a barrel, we saw the impact playing out on the Nifty as well. On Friday in particular, the Nifty was down just about 0.7%. It recovered a bit from the lowest opening levels, but nonetheless, there was pressure coming in. So the Nifty was down 0.8%, mid-cap index, the small-cap index, and, of course, the bank Nifty as well, all were weak, ranging between 1% to 0.5%, depending on which index you are looking at. Now, why this week is important is that it's also told us that the Nifty has been unable to stay above the 25,100 mark, which has been the top of the consolidation range. So we've not managed to have a substantial, decisive move above that level. Let's talk about the losers on Friday, starting with aviation stocks. So a lot of reasons, obviously, there why those stocks were lower. But in addition, there's been some additional promoter selling in Interglobe Aviation. That stock was down 4%. SpiceJet was down 2%. Other Nifty losers on Friday, Adani Ports. The banks were particularly weak. IndusInd Bank, HDFC Bank, Kotak, SBI, these were all down. Power Grid, Bajaj Auto, Titan. So basically, it was an all-fall down kind of a day on Friday. In fact, only 2 to 3 gainers, which were on the positive side, among them BEL, TCS and Tech Mahindra. Oil was the big story on Friday, and we are on, sort of in very uncharted, uncertain territory right now. The cut on BPCL, HPCL and IOC actually was not that much. These stocks were down just between 1% and 2%. Let's see how this plays out. Of course, the upstream oil companies did very well. Oil India and ONGC gains between 1% and 3% over there. For the week as a whole, the Nifty's lost 1.3%. Mid-cap index is down a little more. It's down 1.6%. And the small-cap index is down 1.3%. The mid-cap unwinding that I'm speaking of, it's happened in the parts which have rallied very hard. So, for instance, capital market stocks, real estate stocks, these were the indices. The Nifty Capital Market Index is down 4.5% for the week. The real estate index is down 3.5% for the week. So we end off on a pretty somber and tentative note. And the market will need to see what are the weekend developments to see if the conflict in the Middle East, if that sort of doesn't escalate any further. That's the starting point. And then, of course, some more on the trade front as well is something that we have to watch out for.
Right, Surbhi, many thanks for those details. But with that, it is a wrap on this edition of Business 360. More news and updates continue right here on CNBC TV 18. Stay tuned.